Opening quotation now. Ken Miles. If you've ever heard the name Ken Miles, you might have seen the famed movie Ford versus Ferrari. And in the movie Ford versus Ferrari, we follow the story of the Ford Motor Company racing team versus Ferrari and their course to win the 24-hour race of Le Mans. And Ken Miles is the esteemed, talented racing driver of the Ford Motor Company racing team. And Ken Miles is a enthusiastic and a little bit difficult to work with driver, but decides to agree to be part of the team as their driver. But the problem with the Ford Motor Company racing team is that they were looking for the fame. They were looking for the perfect photo op. And the Ford company said they wanted all three cars to cross the finish line at the same time for that good photo. But the problem was Ken Miles was on the cusp of having the best lap time at the 24-hour race of Le Mans. So Ken Miles had a tough choice of being the individual that has the best lap time or having a team with the best photo. And this idea is what brought me to the quotation I chose for us today. I promise to play for the logo on the front, not the name on the back. Sidney Crosby. And I agree with Sidney. And I think what Sidney is saying is that we as individuals have to reach beyond just ourselves and believe in something bigger, whether it's a legacy or a dream or something that's going to go beyond us. And today we're going to be looking at three main points that encompass this quotation perfectly. First, we're going to be looking at a TV show host. Then we're going to be looking at a president. And finally, we're going to be taking a look at an automaker founder. So, let's drive on over to my first point, our TV show host. If you've ever heard of the Crocodile Hunter, you definitely know Steve Irwin. Steve Irwin is the crazy Australian who's not afraid to wrestle up a couple crooks and get them all railed up for some good photos. But on top of being a big, loud personality and star of the TVs, Steve Irwin is known for being an enthusiast for wildlife preservation. See, Steve Irwin believes in something more than just having a good show and movies, and believes in the preservation of wildlife in Australia and around the world. And we see this through his dedication in his family and his wife and the Australia Zoo. Steve Irwin's legacy is his dedication to wildlife preservation. And this went just beyond just the individual himself and way into something more like his legacy. Now let's leave the Australia Zoo behind and head on over to the United States, where we meet President Abraham Lincoln. Now, President Lincoln is the president of the United States having a difficult time with slavery. See, the United States is torn on the idea of slavery, and President Lincoln has a tough decision to make. He believed that a house divided could not stand, and this became his legacy. This became the moment in history that became something more than just Abraham Lincoln himself. He believed that the encompassing of slaves into the United States would create success for the United States down the line. This was allowing slaves to be part of the American dream. And this became President Abraham's legacy. See, he looked beyond himself and was able to see into the future that this would become the future. This was his legacy. Now let's take a look at our last legacy and our auto founder, Enzo Ferrari. You might have heard of Ferraris, the cars, of course, but you may not know much about Enzo Ferrari himself. Enzo Ferrari was a dedicated and astounding racing driver. Enzo had a very successful racing team of Ferrari, where he found himself dedicating almost his entire company to the racing team at the beginning of his founding. See, Enzo believed that his founding of his racing team was going to be his legacy to the world. And it was. Ferrari became one of the most successful racing teams in the circuit in history. So today, let's crystallize what we talked about. We talked about Steve Irwin and the Crocodile Hunter. We talked about Abraham Lincoln, and we talked about Enzo Ferrari. So when I chose the quotation, I promised to play for the logo on the front and not just the name on the back by Sidney Crosby. We agreed with Sidney, saying that the individual needs to be a part of something bigger and go beyond just themselves. So just like Ken Miles, who had that tough decision, he decided that it'd be better to come together as a team than just an individual.